how did you survive? How did you're face down? Then what happened?
I could see out of the corner of my eye as I turned my head that he was about to hit me again with the hammer in my head, and I grabbed him by the pant leg. I pulled him to the floor, and in the space of a 36-inch hallway, we continued to struggle for the weapon. I began to search in his pockets for clues, a key, an ID,
You were searching in his pockets while you're wrestling with him?
Yes.
Wow.
It came to me suddenly I needed to give up the struggle for the weapon and that I needed to become the weapon.
Imagine a woman summoning every ounce of bravery that she has, finally decides to break free from the suffocating grasp of an abusive relationship. She's hoping for safety, for a fresh start. But little does she know, she's about to embark on the most perilous journey of her entire life. Here's the cold hard truth. The moment that she makes the decision to leave is the moment the danger ramps up. Shockingly, studies reveal that a whopping 75% of domestic violence-related homicides happen when the victim tries to leave or has already left their abuser. Within the first 2 years post-escape, the risk rockets upwards by a staggering 300%. It's a harsh reality check, showing just how treacherous the road to freedom can be for women trapped in abusive relationships. Now, let's shift our focus to Portland, Oregon, where Susan Kuhnhausen, a dedicated nurse, found herself trapped in a nightmare, a marriage plagued by violence and fear. Summoning all of her courage, Susan made the gutsy decision to break free from her abusive husband, seeking sanctuary and a chance at a better life. But little did she know, her escape would throw her headlong into a terrifying ordeal unlike anything she could have ever imagined. One fateful night, as Susan returned home, the familiar comfort of her sanctuary was shattered by the presence of a menacing intruder, a hired assassin lurking in the shadows with one chilling mission: to end her life. How did Susan, a compassionate caregiver, become the target of a cold-blooded killer in her own home? Join us as we delve into the harrowing case of Susan Kuhnhausen, a story riddled with deception, danger, and desperation. Uncover the secrets hidden within the walls of her home and follow the breadcrumbs left behind by those who sought to silence her forever. As we peel back the layers of this gripping tale, one question remains. Who orchestrated the sinister plot to silence Susan Kuhnhausen forever? And what secrets lie buried beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed in the pursuit of justice? Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of this captivating case. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Memento Mori Stories. I'm your host, Ella Favela, and I'm here to guide you through the chilling depths of human nature. If you have a taste for the sinister and the enigmatic, if you crave tales which send shivers down your spine, then you're in the right place. Whether you're a seasoned connoisseur of the macabre or you're just beginning to enjoy the shadows, I'm delighted to have you join us for this exploration of the unknown. Before we delve into the darkness, if you're captivated by stories which challenge your perception and keep you at the edge of your seat, hitting the subscribe button and ringing the notification bell is a must. And if you're curious about what happens behind the scenes of my life, come join me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I've always got something fun happening over there, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. You'll find all of my social links here on screen, and they're clickable for you in the description box below. Also, a little treat for my Instagram family. If you become my 250th follower, you'll receive a custom painting by yours truly, delivered straight to your doorstep with no strings attached. It's our way of saying thank you for being a part of our journey. Now, Before we uncover today's tale, I need to give you a heads up. We're about to journey into some dark territory. Today, we'll be exploring themes of domestic violence, assault, coercion, and murder. So if you feel that these topics might be too intense for you, please feel free to skip this episode. Your well-being is my priority. If you're personally affected by any of these issues, please remember that you're not alone. You do have some options. You can skip this episode, reach out to a trusted friend or family member, or seek professional help. I've compiled a list of resources in the description down below to assist you. It's important for me to express that my goal is not to sensationalize nor to exploit these grim stories. Instead, we aim to shed light on them, fostering understanding and empathy. By engaging in open dialogue, I hope to break down barriers and to promote healing on both an individual and societal level. As we dive into today's tale, remember to keep an open mind and a keen eye for the truth. The story we're about to uncover is filled with twists, turns, secrets, and lies. Join us as we unravel the truth behind what happened to Susan Kuhnhausen. Welcome to Portland, Oregon, a city of contrast, where towering skyscrapers cast shadows over quaint Victorian homes, and bustling streets are adorned with vibrant murals and eclectic shops. Portland's rich tapestry of culture and history is woven into every street corner, from the vibrant art scene of the Pearl District to the historic charm of Old Town Chinatown. Known for its progressive values and independent spirit, Portland has earned a reputation as a haven for artists, activists, and free thinkers alike. At the heart of Portland beats a rhythm all of its own, a rhythm fueled by creativity, innovation, and a deep connection to the natural world. Here, you'll find lush parks and gardens tucked between skyscrapers, offering a moment of solace amidst the urban chaos. From the quirky food carts that line the streets to the world-class breweries which dot the landscape, Portland is a culinary mecca, where flavors from around the globe come together in perfect harmony. And let's not forget the coffee. Portlanders take their brew seriously, with artisanal roasters and cozy cafes on nearly every corner. Beneath its picturesque facade, however, lies a city grappling with its own demons. Like many urban centers, Portland struggles with issues of homelessness, addiction, and inequality. Yet, amidst the challenges, there's a sense of resilience, a belief that, with community and compassion, the city and its residents can overcome any obstacle. Susan Kuhnhausen didn't grow up with many examples of happy marriages. Her father, an Air Force cook, and her mother, a homemaker, separated when she was in the 2nd grade. Life was chaotic as the family moved frequently, shuffling between Colorado, Arizona, California, and Nevada. Susan and her siblings switched between various schools, homes, and parental rules. My parents loved me, but they couldn't teach me how to have a successful marriage, any more than they could teach me how to fly, she would later reflect. Determined to carve out her own path, Susan became a licensed practical nurse and eventually a registered nurse. In the early 1980s, she moved to Oregon, first settling in Coos Bay and later in Portland. With her outgoing and vivacious personality, Susan was known for her loud, boisterous laugh. She loved attending shows at Harvey's Comedy Club, always opting for a seat right in the front row. In 1988, Susan's mother and a friend took matters into their own hands to help her find love. They paid for a personal ad for Susan in the Willamette Week. The 65-word ad, titled "Someone Different," read, "Single white female, 33, overweight but not over life, seeks single male who wants more out of a relationship than just slender. Among the responses was one from a man named Mike. Hi, different. My name is Mike. I'm a 39-year-old dating while married. I enjoy most things in nature, from wandering in the ape caves at Mount St. Helens to walking on the beach at sunset. On January 30th, 1988, Susan marked her first phone conversation with Mike in her kitten-themed daybook with a smiley face in red ballpoint pen. Over the next few weeks, Susan and Mike spent over 100 hours on the phone, discussing deep and meaningful topics. He had a nice voice, Susan recalled. I was impressed that he wanted to talk with me about the deeper things. Their first date took place in February 1988 at the Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden, next to Reed College, where they fed ducks and tossed peanuts to the squirrels. By the end of the year, they were driving to Reno to get married. Mike enjoyed playing slot machines, and Susan figured that marriage was the biggest gamble of all. However, the marriage soured quickly. It wasn't very long after we got married, Susan admitted, that there was no more hiking, no more going out. Mike, who grew up in Portland and was adopted as a newborn in 1948, claimed to have seen combat in Vietnam, a claim Susan now doubts. Military records listed him as a switchboard operator. He soon found a job as a janitorial supervisor for Oregon Entertainment, the parent company of Fantasy Adult Video. As their marriage would progress, Mike began revealing a bleak life philosophy to Susan. Life is a shit sandwich, and every day you take another bite until you die, he would tell her. He became increasingly controlling, chain-smoking, guzzling Diet Cokes, and monitoring Susan's every move. He would hound her about her plans and scrutinize her spending, complaining about even the most minor of purchases. After 17 years, Susan reached her breaking point. If I tried to kiss him, he'd burp, she recalled. I cared about him, but I didn't want to live with him anymore. I wanted to be happy again. In September 2005, Susan asked Mike to leave their home, and he moved in with his father. Despite the separation, Susan never changed the locks or the alarm code, 1210, their anniversary. It was this oversight which would set the stage for the terrifying events which would unfold on September 6, 2006. As an emergency room nurse for over 3 decades, Susan Kuhnhausen was a fixture in the fast-paced world of healthcare, where each day brought a whirlwind of chaos, compassion, and courage. In the corridors of the ER, she stood as a beacon of strength and resilience, confronting the myriad challenges which came her way with unwavering determination and compassion. For Susan, nursing wasn't just a job, it was a calling, a vocation which allowed her to make a tangible difference in the lives of others, even in the most dire of circumstances. With a steady hand and a compassionate heart, Susan navigated the front lines of healthcare, facing down the darker aspects of human suffering with grace and empathy. From tending to the wounds of trauma victims to offering solace to those in the grips of addiction or mental illness, she approached each patient with the same unwavering dedication and commitment to their care. What truly set Susan apart was her ability to see beyond the surface, to recognize the humanity of each person who crossed her path, regardless of their circumstances. In the emergency room, she encountered individuals at their most vulnerable, grappling with the physical and emotional fallout of their struggles. Yet, instead of judgment or indifference, Susan offered understanding and support, treating each patient with the dignity and respect which they deserved. It was a profession that demanded resilience and fortitude, where nurses face down the specter of death and despair on a daily basis. Yet, for Susan, it was a challenge she embraced wholeheartedly, drawing strength from the knowledge that even in the darkest of moments, she had the power to make a difference. On the evening of Wednesday, September 6th, 2006, 51-year-old Susan finished her shift at Providence Portland Medical Center on Northeast Gleason Street. Instead of heading straight home, she decided to visit Perfect Look Hair Salon on East Burnside Street. She took her time, savoring a moment of peace after a long day. While waiting for her turn, she picked up a copy of Oprah magazine and came across a poem that resonated deeply with her. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear. After an hour of rest and relaxation, Susan drove to her blue, one-story Cape Cod home with a gray picket fence in the Montevilla neighborhood of Southeast Portland. She found a note in the mudroom near the microwave from her husband of nearly 18 years, Mike. Sue, haven't been sleeping. Had to get away. Went to the beach, it read. He signed it off with, love, me, and mentioned he'd see her again on Friday or Saturday. Susan and Mike's 17-year marriage had been fraught with emotional abuse from Mike. By 2006, Susan had reached her breaking point and mustered up the courage to kick him out and file for divorce. However, Mike wasn't ready to let go so easily. As Susan unlocked the door to the kitchen, she heard the beeping of the security alarm. She disarmed it and walked through the house to the front door before stepping back outside. It was clear and warm at 6:37 p.m., and she took a minute or two to stand in the front yard, flipping through her mail. Returning inside, Susan kicked off her Birkenstocks and noticed how dark it was in her first-floor bedroom. Had she forgotten to open the curtains that morning? Suddenly, from behind the bedroom door, a man lunged at her.
Come here!
The intruder was a 5'9", 190-pound stranger wearing Dockers, a blue-striped shirt, and a tan baseball hat pulled low over his eyes. His long hair was tucked into a ponytail beneath his cap, and he wore yellow rubber gloves on his hands. In his grip was a red and black claw hammer. For many, the sight of an intruder wielding a hammer in the shadows of their home would trigger their instinct to flee. But Susan Kuhnhausen wasn't like most people. With nearly 30 years of experience as an emergency room nurse, Susan had faced down her share of harrowing situations. She had disarmed violent patients, cracked open chests to perform heart massages, and administered IVs to individuals thrashing in drug withdrawal. Self-defense training was routine for Susan and her fellow nurses at Providence Portland Medical Center, where they learned how to escape headlocks and clutches. Despite her extensive training, Susan often wondered if she would remember her skills in a real emergency. That night, she would find out. The stranger, later identified as Dalton Haffey, lunged at her, and in that moment, her training kicked in. She crowded him, knowing that staying close would reduce the force of his swings. The first blow struck her left temple. "Who are you? What do you want?" Susan screamed. But Haffey remained silent and relentless. At 5'4", Susan was 5 inches shorter than her assailant. She had bad knees and carried extra weight, but she was strong and outweighed Haffey significantly. She slammed her body against his, hoping to topple him, but he didn't fall. Instead, he pushed her against the bedroom wall and, in a chilling moment, said to her,
"You're strong."
This acknowledgement fueled Susan's determination. She realized, he's here to kill me. I don't know why or who he is, but his intentions are clear. Summoning all of her strength, Susan pushed back again, demanding to know who sent him. In the struggle, she wrestled the hammer from Haffey and swung its claw into his skull multiple times. Haffey managed to reclaim the hammer, prompting Susan to grab his throat and choke him. "Who sent you here?" she demanded, her hands tightening around his airway. Haffey's face turned shades of red, purple, and blue. Fearing she might kill him, Susan released her grip and tried to escape. But Haffey was quick. He caught her in the hallway, punched her twice, and knocked her to the floor. Standing over her with the hammer, he seemed ready to deliver a fatal blow. Susan looked at the floor and thought, "I'm gonna die today." Summoning strength from deep within herself, she pulled Haffey to the ground and bit him repeatedly, hoping her teeth marks would help identify him if she didn't survive. She even bit through his zipper to his genitalia and rifled through his pockets for any ID she could hide for the police to find later. Desperate and ferocious, she fought with the intensity of a downed power line snapping on the pavement. After a brutal 14-minute struggle, Susan managed to climb on top of Haffey and tighten her forearm around his neck. "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you a ambulance," she yelled. Haffey only growled in response. Susan leaned in, cutting off his air supply until he stopped moving. Grabbing the hammer, she fled to her neighbors, who immediately called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
"We have an intruder in the house next door. The intruder was in the bedroom with a hammer. The woman who lives there thinks she may have strangled him. He was down when she left."
Can you put her on the phone?
"She's bleeding."
Does she need an ambulance?
"No, she's a nurse. She says call an ambulance for the guy. He may be dead."
What did she use on him? She strangled him. What else did she do?
"She put a chokehold on him."
I've got help on the way. Stay on the line.
"She has a hammer here."
Don't touch it. Don't touch it, just leave it there.
"She hit him in the head several times. That's the hammer he had with him. She struck him and she strangled him and she thinks he's dead."
Was he by himself?
"Did he have anybody with him? No. She expressed a concern it may have been her ex-partner who sent the guy."
Have there been problems with her ex-husband?
"She did talk to Mike and asked him to house sit for the cats, and he said he couldn't do it. He said he was on his way to the beach. He left her a note. He knows the alarm code."
Okay, that's good information to pass to the officers.
It didn't take long for Portland police to identify Susan Kuhnhausen's attacker and to connect him to her estranged husband, Mike. When they searched the scene, they found a wallet in his back pocket containing his ID, Ed Haffey, 59-year-old Vietnam veteran with a long criminal record. The day after the brutal attack, Susan returned to her home with her friend Helen to collect some belongings. Helen noticed something that the police had missed, a backpack in the basement which didn't belong to Susan. Inside the backpack, they found a container of Hershey's syrup, $200 cash, diabetes pills, a daybook, and a pay stub made out to Haffey. There was an entry in the daybook for Monday, September 4th, 2006, marked, "Call Mike." A manila envelope also contained Mike's new cell phone number. An autopsy would reveal that Haffey had a near-lethal dose of cocaine in his system when he attacked Susan. Further investigation showed that Haffey had recently been living in a trailer on Northeast Killingsworth Street. Friends and family described him as having been raised in an upper-middle-class home and having been an avid tennis player in his youth. Court records would expose a gruesome part of Haffey's past. On February 28, 1991, Haffey had arranged for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, 39-year-old Georgia Lee Dutton. Her decomposed body was later found along the Umpqua River near Roseburg. Haffey pled guilty to conspiracy to commit aggravated murder on March 14, 1994, and he spent 9 years in the Eastern Oregon Correctional Institution. He was released on November 3rd, 2003. After his release, Haffey moved to Portland and needed a job. He found employment in July 2004 when Mike Kuhnhausen hired him to clean floors at Fantasy Adult Video. This job would later connect Haffey to the plot against Susan. Police uncovered more evidence implicating Mike. Financial records show that on the day of the attack, Mike drove his gold Dodge Neon to the coast and checked into the Lincoln City Inn using a credit card. He returned to Portland that night, and the next day, he spent $339 on a Taurus 357 Magnum at the Silver Lining Pawn Shop on Northeast Sandy Boulevard. On September 8th, Mike left a suicide note at his father's house.
All I ever wanted was to be loved, and every time I had it, I fucked it up.
The note read. He then disappeared, prompting police to issue a bulletin for his capture. On the morning of September 13th, a Clackamas County Sheriff's deputy spotted Mike in the parking lot of Kaiser Sunnyside Medical Center. Mike claimed he was checking himself in. "I have nothing to live for anymore," he told the officers. They placed him on an involuntary psychiatric hold. 11 hours later, they arrested him for conspiracy to commit murder. The unraveling of this conspiracy exposed the harrowing lengths Mike Kuhnhausen went to in his attempt to end Susan's life. From hiring a hitman with a violent past to trying to cover his tracks with a weak alibi, Mike's actions underscored a chilling reality of domestic abuse. Susan's survival and the subsequent investigation would reveal a tangled web of deceit and desperation, painting a grim picture of the dangers faced by those attempting to leave abusive relationships. Mike would ask,
Am I under arrest?
to which Detective Steve Ober would reply,
At this point you are, so what I'd like to do is re-advise you of your Miranda rights.
You're not gonna believe my side of the story.
Why is that? We haven't heard your side of the story.
My side of the story is so off the wall.
Authorities didn't buy Mike's pleas of innocence or his alibi about being at the beach. Mike had recently lost his job, and he had no place to live. Susan had named her brother as the beneficiary on her life insurance policy, a fact Mike knew very well. However, the Montevilla house, which they had paid off and which was worth about $300,000, could be his if Susan died. By the time of Mike's arrest, detectives had already secured employment records from Fantasy Adult Video, proving that Mike knew Haffey. When police booked Mike into jail on September 13th, he initially denied any connection to the attack. Then he changed his story. "I didn't do it," he told them. "Just because I know the guy doesn't mean I did anything." Other evidence pointed to a conspiracy with Haffey. There were no signs of forced entry at Susan's home. However, security records showed that someone had disabled the alarm at the Montevilla house while Susan was at work. Mike later claimed he did it while dropping off the note about going to the beach, but he denied letting Haffey inside. On September 18th, a former cellmate of Haffey's contacted the police, saying that Haffey had asked him to join a burglary, an insurance scam, the man told police. He and Haffey had met a guy at Southeast 82nd Avenue and Division Street. It was Mike Kuhnhausen, who offered to pay $5,000 if the man helped Haffey kill his wife. The cellmate had refused. On November 17th, another witness came forward, telling police that he had driven Haffey to meet a bald man in the parking lot of an Applebee's near Interstate 205. Days after that, he saw the man's picture in the news following Susan's attack. It was Mike, he said. He could deny it all he wanted, said Brian Davidson, a prosecutor on the case, but the weight of the evidence was overwhelming. On August 30th, 2007, Mike pled guilty to soliciting Susan's murder. The unraveling of this conspiracy reveals Mike's desperate and calculated attempts to end Susan's life, underscoring the extreme lengths he went to in his effort to retain the house and sever their ties permanently. Mike Kuhnhausen's release date was set for September 14th, 2014. Susan, who had initiated divorce proceedings immediately after Mike's arrest, mentally prepared herself for his impending return. Once full of vitality and adventure, she now likened herself to a broken plate glued back together. Adopting cautious habits, she chose seats in restaurants with a clear view of exits, altered her driving routes, and would circle the block to ensure she wasn't being followed. "I'm serving a life sentence for marrying the wrong man," she would lament. By 2014, Susan had relocated to a secluded residence on a quiet cul-de-sac in Portland. Surrounding her home with gravel to amplify approaching footsteps, she also frequented a nearby shooting range to hone her self-defense skills. If he ever came here, he wouldn't get within striking distance, she resolved. However, fate would intervene, and Mike would never have the opportunity to return. On Friday, the 13th of June, 2014, cancer would claim his life, a mere 92 days before his scheduled release. Correspondence from Mike during his incarceration revealed a steadfast refusal to admit guilt. He maintained that his plea was a strategic move to avoid a potentially harsher sentence, continuing to try to cast himself as the true victim. Even 18 years later, Susan still found herself shedding tears when recalling her harrowing ordeal. Crying somehow eases the pain, she confessed. Continuing her nursing career until December 2014, Susan found herself thrust into an unexpected role as a heroine. Though her profession centered on preserving life, her act of self-defense led many to laud her as a hero. "What makes me heroic?" she would wonder. "It's not about taking a life. It's about surviving against all odds," her supervisor once explained. Susan's traumatic experience echoed a troubling trend, with nearly a quarter of homicides in Oregon involving intimate partners. For 18 years, Susan, now known as Susan Walters, has occasionally shared her story. Delving deeper into her past, she's now embarking on a memoir project, shedding light on her journey from meeting her husband to the fateful day of the attack. Although she escaped physical harm that day, the psychological scars still linger. The weight of knowing that her husband wished her dead and the burden of taking another life to safeguard her own have left an indelible stain on her life. "I didn't choose to end his life," she reflects. "I chose to preserve mine." Susan's ordeal sheds light on the perilous journey faced by many women attempting to break free from abusive relationships. According to research from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, leaving an abuser is often the most dangerous time for a victim. Shockingly, about 3/4 of domestic violence-related homicides occur when the victim is attempting to leave or has already left their abuser. Furthermore, within the first 2 years directly after leaving, the risk of intimate partner violence-related homicide increases by a staggering 300%. These statistics underscore the chilling reality that many women, like Susan, confront when they're summoning the courage to escape abusive environments. Despite taking steps to reclaim their autonomy and to seek safety, they remain ensnared in a perilous cycle where the threat of violence looms large. This sobering truth underscores the urgent need for comprehensive support services and resources to assist individuals navigating the treacherous path to liberation from abuse. As Susan's story comes to a close, we're reminded of the strength and the courage that she displayed in the face of unimaginable adversity. Her journey serves as a poignant reminder of the challenges faced by many individuals when breaking free from abusive relationships. If you find yourself in a similar situation, please know that you're not alone. Help and support are available to assist you in navigating this difficult path. Your safety and well-being are paramount, and you deserve to live a life free from fear and violence. In the description below, you'll find a curated list of resources and links to aid you on your journey to safety and healing. Remember, you have the strength to overcome this, and there are people who believe in you. As we conclude Susan's chapter, let us carry forward the lessons learned and continue the fight against domestic violence. Together, we can create a world where every individual feels safe, valued, and empowered to live without fear. The painting I have been working on today is an untitled neo-traditional self-portrait, and as of the time of recording this voiceover, May 20th, 2024, I have, for once, completed about half of this piece. So far, I'm into it about 20 hours, and I'll pop the total elapsed time on the screen now for the curious. It is 9 by 12 inches and will be composed of some combination of watercolor and gouache paint, Posca pen, India ink, and gilding foils on 300 GSM 140-pound cold press block. This painting will be available for sale, as are many of my other original works, and my books are currently open to custom commissioned work as well. I ship for free across Canada, but I'm happy to ship globally for a nominal fee as well. I'll be announcing my next print drop very soon. I realize that I'm a little bit behind schedule with this, but life's been lifin' lately. You know how it goes. There will be a limited run of 19 images available in 3 different sizes for you to add to your collection in the very near future. Make sure to follow me on social media to be among the first to know when they'll be available and for instructions on how to order them. I've also opened my books to offer graphic design and branding consultations for serious clients. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please send me an email to hello@stageleftproject.ca. If you believe in the power of conversation, in dismantling the silence which shrouds domestic abuse, and in fostering empathy, then I invite you to be a part of the Memento Mori Stories community. Subscribe to our channel to stay engaged with thought-provoking stories, discussions, and creative expressions. Together, we can be a force for awareness, understanding, and healing. Your subscription is not just a click. It's a pledge to be a part of a movement which embraces the power of storytelling to bring about positive change. Remember, every voice matters, and yours can be a catalyst for good. Subscribe, share, and let's continue this journey together. Remember, one day you will die, but for now, live well. Ciao for now.